Hello, welcome to Dynamics 365 projects videos again. This is going to be the second one in the section, and we're going to show how to create a project from scratch this time, and how to create the forecast and use a work breakdown structure, and also create a budget, and then set our task ready for postings against it. Okay, so let's go into the project management workspace, and we can see we have a number of different projects in different statuses here and of different types. I'm just going to create a new project now. And first thing I need to do is define what kind of project it is, give it an ID. It's got to be a unique ID, of course, for a project. And I'm going to call this building refurb 4 and a project group and project contract. I can create a new project contract if I wish to. The project contract is what controls the billing. We'll have a look at that a bit later on. And this is where we pick our customer. Okay, so we're going to use a construction company, and our project's going to be in GBP. Okay, that's about it. I can assign a project manager if I want to at this point, or I can do that later on. Let's do that now because we can, and also a start date as well on here as well, or a predicted start date. And now we create the project. Now we've got our project header effectively, and we need to start putting some details against it. You'll notice that we can, as well as a manager, we can have a project controller and a sales manager who would also default from the customer if there was a sales manager assigned to this customer. So one of the things that we can do to start a project is to use a work breakdown structure. So I'm going to do that now. And what we can do is import from a set of templates, which is a quicker way of doing things than just from scratch. I've got a template here called building refit, and it's asking me about the rate cards, whether to use it for the customer, take the rate card from the customer, or whether to use the standard rates in the work breakdown structure. I'm going to use the standard rates for the moment. And now what we've got, we can see in terms of scheduling, if I expand this to cover all, it's brought in all the tasks from my standard work breakdown structure. I'm actually going to delete a lot of these out of here because I just want a simple project for this exercise, and the template is really just that. It's an example, so I can get rid of the ones that I don't want in terms of those lines. So now I've got 56 hours here. I can look at it, the word WBS, in terms of scheduling and also cost estimates. If you don't use time at all, you can still use a WBS, and you can basically use these project categories here, and you can still price by category. There are some things that don't work on a non-time based project, but many things do, and this does in terms of the cost and the sales pricing here, so you'd still get this breakdown here. Okay, so we have an example WBS now, and I'm going to click publish. Really, this is making this active for this project, and we'll have a look at tracking views later on. Tracking is where you see against the WBS and the tasks where you are in terms of your remaining costs and so on. Let's have a very quick check on tracking views. Not much to show on here at the moment because we haven't really started doing anything actuals yet, but of course, or running the cost to complete routine yet. But you can see that I've got a remaining cost here, cost to complete, a plan cost, and a variance. So these tracking views, both in terms of costs and effort here, will stay updated. They're part of the management tool that you get within project. So I have my WBS on here now. The other thing that I want to do is have a forecast, create a forecast on here so that I can track against my forecast. and I'll create a budget as well. So now we've got a WBS in here, we can use this to create our forecast. And we've got different forecasting models. I'm going to use what we call an original forecasting model here. And you can see here I've got all the costs and the quantities from my work breakdown structure. And I'm going to say OK, because I want to use all of those in my forecast. And if I just do a refresh, you'll see it's pulled those lines in there into my forecast. OK, so that's a forecast. The other thing that we may want to do is create a project budget, and project budgets can have an approval process, a workflow approval process, of course. And what I can do is import from a forecast, and I've just done one of those, or I could also import from a WBS straight away. So not everybody uses forecasts, some people just use a budget here, but I can create a budget from actual transactions, one of those forecasts that we had, or the work breakdown structure that we had before. And we can apply a markup or a markdown percentage as well. So I'm going to say OK to that. And what you'll see here now, I've got the lines here, it's basically rolled these up by transaction type and by category. So we've got 3 categories of work that are going on this project. And as you can see, we've got our costs here. So we've got original budget. These are the costs that we've put on each of these categories, the default costs. And then also underneath, we've got the prices as well. So we've got the revenues from there as well, from those prices as well. I'm going to click Save on this one. And you'll see we've got a workflow status of created. I'm going to call this, I'll just give this budget a name. If I want to, I can give it a description here, so I'll call it baseline. And basically at the moment, it's in a status of created, so not approved yet. So in order to do that, I need to submit this budget if I'm happy with it. So I'm going to do that. I could put a comment if I want to on that submission. And if we go to view history, this one is actually set up to automatically approve as long as it's below a certain limit, and the limit is very high. So in this case, I'm expecting the workflow to run and complete without anybody having to actually go and authorize it in this case, because it will be below that threshold. There we go. And we can see here that we've got an automatic approval completed here. So if I close this now and go back to my budget and just refresh, there we are, the workflow status is approved for this budget. And as you can see here, we've got some figures here for original budget, approved revisions, unapproved revisions, and then a total. So if we were going to, or the project manager was going to do a new budget, basically we would create a new revision and we would make the changes we want to make, and then we'd go back through that workflow process again. And actually you can have a slightly different workflow process for budget revisions versus original budgets if you want to. So this will now give us, as we go through the project budget balances. So this is a screen that you'll be able to see in terms of costs and revenues by category or category group. Let's do it by category. So now we can see by architect, PM, and QA where we are against the budget in terms of what we've consumed and what's remaining. And as I say, if there have been revisions, you would see those figures as well here from the revisions on the budget, both in terms of costs and revenue. So project budget balances updates as the actuals get, as the budget gets consumed, and this is where you see them from. This is obviously from one particular project, but you have a view overall of all projects or all the projects that you're working on to see these project budget balances as we go through. And then what we're going to do on the project is now we've got a budget together, we've got our forecast together, we've got a work breakdown structure, we're going to start doing resource planning and other things. In order for some of those things to happen, then what we need to do is update the project stage. Okay, so at the moment we've got a project that is just being created, and if I click this here, so it's in the created stage at the moment, I can then go to estimated, which allows you to do some tasks but not other tasks. I can say scheduled when the process is that I've scheduled the resources to it, or I can set it to in process, and in process basically allows me to do anything that I want on this project in terms of posting transactions and so on. So I can go through these stages. There are also custom stages. You can have 3 custom stages if you want to as well. So I'm going to set the status to estimated. And then in the next video, we're going to show how some transactions get posted to these projects and how the scheduling works, and how we monitor a project.